I think being able to read well and fairly quickly is important. Having a love for history and some type of context for historical background, I think, is important. And then being able to enjoy participating in a discussion-based class and engaging in the material, not being a passive learner, is important.
Probably determination. Like, you have to be determined to actually study and like read the chapters, because some of the chapters get pretty boring. Though also you have to kind of have some free time. You can't have too many things going on because you do have to read and study it.
I thought that critical thinking for for the AP test and like Miss Ginocchio's class as a whole, there's a lot of like document-based questions and just like free response questions, and like specifically for like documents and like putting things into context, having critical reading was really important and like helped a lot. I think good work ethic, because like the class can be a lot, and like the way that it's organized is it's like for homework we'll do like sections per night of the textbook, which is like pretty dense. So like if you don't have the work ethic to stay on top of it, it like compiles and becomes way too much.
I think you need to have like basic historical thinking skills, and you need to be good at like critical thinking. But most importantly, I think you need to be able to sit down and like focus on reading for like a long time, and you need to be able to like I don't know, like you need to read like quickly but also understand the material as best as you can.
I think the average is about an hour, and sometimes it could be more, sometimes it could be less. That's where the strong reading skills comes in, because a lot of homework is reading, and so if you're a slow reader, it could take a lot longer for some students. But if we say have a test, it might take a little bit longer in order to be able to fully memorize and go through the information.
Probably like half an hour to 45 minutes, though quiz or test days more like an hour to an hour and a half.
It can be anywhere from like 30 minutes if it's like just like a shorter section of the textbook for reading, to even like an hour and a half, 2 hours if we have a project that you need to work on. But kind of like I said though, it can depend on like how on top of it you are, because when it does like accumulate and you don't stay on it, then that's when you end up with like 3-4 hours of reading, which is like, it's impossible.
It depends on like how much time I have typically, but like in order to get the reading done and like thoroughly understand it so that you don't have to go back and review it, I'd say like 1.5 to 2.5 hours per night.
I think students really have to be able to balance their time effectively if they are doing several extracurriculars, whether that's theater or that's a varsity sport. Students have tend to realize that they need to allocate their time appropriately. So if they do a lot during the week, they need to do their reading ahead of time on the weekends. And so I think though students sometimes struggle, if they realize when is the best time to do their reading and or studying, then they can make it work, but it is challenging.
I guess it's like it was harder in the spring to balance it because I had a sport in the spring, but in the winter, since I didn't have anything going on, it was pretty easy. And also like near the AP test in the spring, it gets harder to balance it because you have to balance the chapters you're reading and you have to go back on the earlier chapters, so that's a lot harder. So like I guess it's easier to have the class if you only play a sport in the winter or fall and not the spring.
I had a pretty big struggle with that this year. I just think that like getting ahead for studying for tests was really important, because it's so easy to like get caught up in just like the nightly work and the projects and the other stuff in your other classes. It's so easy to just cram the night before, and like especially with like athletics and like if you're busy on weekends and all that, it just like it really pays to really be on top of it. Just like again, work ethic, like don't push it off because of athletics. Like if you come home tired from practice, just like slam it out for an hour and then like go to bed. Like don't push it off till the next day because that'll suck a lot more.
Since it's so time consuming, it's definitely kind of difficult to balance it. Like I play volleyball, and on like nights when I have volleyball practice or during like the school season when it's practice and games every day, it's definitely hard, and I end up staying up pretty late to do like the Euro reading. And sometimes it's easier to like just skim it for the next day, but then that kind of puts you back in the long run, so it's necessary to put in the time every night.
I always love learning, and I love learning about why we are the way we are. And so I feel like European history in this modern era has shaped so many of the different issues that we still face today, and is a basis, if the class provides a basis for understanding the cultural, social, political, economic issues that we still grapple with. And I think what is so fun is that students then are much more capable of understanding current news events and why they're significant, and they're able to engage in a very informed style of debate, which perhaps they may not have been able to have done prior to the class. I think that they come away with strong writing skills, even stronger reading skills, and an ability to analyze information and really comprehend all of that. And I think one of the reasons why students love it so much is because they're in a class with highly motivated students that typically love the same type of topics for debate.
I liked other kids' presentations and like their visuals or whatever, and like just to see their interpretations of what I was reading and see if it was like similar or not, and just like to see, like, compare what I was learning that chapter to what's happening now in politics.
You learn the basis of like Western society and like civilization from like the 1450s on. So like you kind of see the evolution of like what we know is like as today. And also what's really important now that you learn really in depth is like all the different isms, like communism, socialism, capitalism. You learn them like, you know them cold, and like it's a really important thing to know, and it really helps to have like better insight on like current events, and it helped the class as a whole. I learned so much about so many different areas, even like religion, psychology, stuff like that. It helps me form my opinions better now, and I'm better informed. And like also like religion and like humanity, you question that, or like you don't question it more, but it definitely changes your opinions because we learn about a lot of thinkers and all that.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
I think it's definitely like one of the best classes I've ever taken. It's definitely like one of my favorites. Like the amount that I learned about history in 1 year, it's like kind of amazing how much I know now. And like just going through everyday life, you just can make all these like new connections with like everything that you've read, and it's like kind of amazing how like the things that you've learned like pop up in the news or anything. Like a lot of times like on the news, like we hear about like socialism and capitalism and communism and everything, and you kind of have like a American perspective of these like ideas when you like first enter the class, but then once you get to the class you like thoroughly understand like the ideologies behind it, and you can like look at things from not just an American perspective but from like a global perspective.
I think that the student who wants to take this class should be the student that's not just check, it's an AP, but rather it's a student who really enjoys and thrives on the challenge of learning difficult material, being able to truly engage in the information, and really wants to learn rather than just sit in a class to get credit.